Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Thursday, 19th of October 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news, we've got sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates. And the newsmakers in person this evening. Single-use plastic is banned on the island from today. The MGP is going to be bigger in 2024. Plans for the new Castle Rushen High School. The Isle of Man's hidden homeless. And the Mooragh Park gets a green flag.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Fastamai Chanel Suku.
Fastamai. There's a yellow weather warning for heavy rain in place from tomorrow from 5 a.m. until 6 p.m. Due to the weather, some steam packet sailings tomorrow may also be affected. 10 commonly single-use plastic items have been banned on the Isle of Man today, meaning businesses can no longer sell or distribute straws and carrier bags, among others. And an expanded 6-race program for the Manx Grand Prix is being introduced for 2024. The provisional dates for the event are the 18th to the 26th of August. In international news, Downing Street says the number of British nationals who've died after Hamas attacks on Israel almost 2 weeks ago has risen from 7 to 9. After visiting Jerusalem, Rishi Sunak's now in Saudi Arabia, where he's due to discuss the conflict with the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Elsewhere, hundreds of families in Angus have been told to leave their homes ahead of a red weather warning for rain tonight, meaning a danger to life. The most serious alerts being issued for eastern parts of Scotland as Storm Babbitt closes in. And the proportion of 10 and 11-year-olds who are overweight and obese in England has dropped. NHS data says it's still above pre-pandemic levels, though. Those were your headlines. News at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goramaya, thank you, Chanel. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, still got that strong wind warning in the North Irish Sea. State of sea is slight or moderate. Isolated showers this evening, then more rain. Oh yes, rain. Overnight in a moderate northeasterly, 10 Celsius, the overnight minimum. And remember, there's that yellow warning for heavy rain from 5 o'clock tomorrow morning till 6 tomorrow evening. And for Jehenya, Friday cloudy with persistent and heavy rain throughout the day on a strong to near gale force northeasterly. Daylight maximum 14 down to 9 through the night into Jasam. Saturday will be unsettled with outbreaks of rain on a moderate to fresh northeasterly, easing and backing northwesterly. Top temperature is 12. Sunset tonight, 13 minutes past 6. Low water, 9 minutes past 11. The high tides at 14 minutes after 3 a.m. Sunrise, 5 to 8 in the morning. Low tide, 27 minutes past 9.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
Well, it's been a year coming. It's here today. 10 commonly used single-use plastic items have been banned on the Isle of Man today, meaning businesses can't sell or distribute products like straws and carrier bags. Plastic ones, that is. The Environment Minister, Claire Barber, says businesses have been supported in the run-up to the ban and that support remains in place.
Some of this we know already that customers are asking vendors around this. Also, we know that it's been one of the policies government has had at many events, so we've been working with various companies as well. But we also have teams that do go out into some of these businesses, such as our environmental health teams, who would look to support businesses should they see that they are still using some of these banned items, because this is very much us wanting to work with businesses, which is why we've said if people have found themselves in a position where they have large quantities still in stock because they pre-order years in advance, whatever the reason may be, we'd like them to come and talk to us. But what will be absolutely imperative will be them demonstrating a very clear way that they're going to come away from using these single-use items. This isn't something we're just doing here on the Isle of Man. This is very much a move that is something we're very much at the forefront of. We're there with the early adopters. We did also give a 12-month lead-in time, and we thought that was very important to allow businesses the opportunity to use stock up. No one wants to suddenly be told this is coming in a month. We recognise people do buy in advance and buy in bulk, and that's particularly important on an island where you can have freight charges. So we've tried to be as reasonable as we can in terms of our implementation. But I would hope people haven't been stockpiling, because ultimately, when I talk to businesses, there's very few that I meet who aren't in favour of doing everything we can for the global environment and climate change.
Next year's Manx Grand Prix has an expanded 6-race schedule. The big announcement was today. Rob Pritchard with the details.
Officials have today announced the provisional dates for the 2024 Manx Grand Prix will be from the 18th to the 26th of August. 2 key changes are being brought in. Firstly, the 3-lap Classic Junior MGP race will return to the roster for the first time since 2019 and will include 350cc classic machines. Bringing this event back is hoped to boost entry numbers and secure the long-term future for historic racing at the Manx. Elsewhere, the Manx Motorcycle Club has stated 2024 will see a clubman racing system put in place. Competitors will be designated into 2 categories. Riders will be classed as TT if they've had an entry accepted to the Isle of Man TT races, whilst clubman status will be given to competitors outside that criteria. Furthermore, riders with clubman status will be in contention for specific awards in the lightweight, Classic Junior, Classic Senior and Classic Superbike races. This move, organisers say, is aiming to give more recognition to amateur competitors in those races. As for the overall schedule, qualifying will be held from Sunday the 18th of August to Friday the 23rd of August. On that Friday will also be the 3-lap lightweight race and 4-lap Classic Senior race. The following day, the 24th of August, the Classic Junior and Junior MGP races are scheduled over 3 and 4 laps respectively. The event will then be rounded off on Bank Holiday Monday the 26th of August with the Senior MGP and Classic Superbike contests, both over 4 laps. Specific timings will be announced in due course, and the provisional schedule is subject to consultation and road closure approval.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
The Education Minister's promised we should have a clearer idea about plans for the new Castle Rushen High School later this month. Julie Edge MHK was quizzed about the timeline for the plans in Tynwald this week, but she said she's determined to make sure the department doesn't rush it and that things are got right.
I understand the Honourable Member, some frustration with design. Certainly, as a department, we will be pushing that. I've said there's a meeting this week on the 23rd of October, and I would expect at the outturn of that meeting, we get a project plan and timescale. If we don't, I will be pushing for that because I think it's really important. However, there's financial challenges throughout our finances on the island, and I do think that we need to do this right. We need to make sure it's the right project and that we can do it in a phased approach so that it is affordable to this island and the people of this island. My officers, we meet weekly and we get updates of what meetings are. There has been a few cancelled meetings and, that's outside of our control. However, the most important thing is to make sure we are progressing, and it's clear we are progressing. We've had the funding secured to go to the design stage, but the key important piece is that we get it right from the outset, and that is the aim of the department. And whilst members may be frustrated that it's taken a bit of time, I think what they will see come out of this is a far superior scheme than a finger drawing, which was what I seen when I arrived at the department.
The Isle of Man's hidden homeless population has been discussed at length in Tynwald this week ahead of a new strategy to be published in December. The new chair of the Housing and Communities Board, MHK David Ashford, says the creation of a night shelter wouldn't go far enough.
There's been a lot of work over the last couple of years to give options for people to seek help and support. Housing Matters as a partner has been very important. I think what we need to do with homelessness is ensure that we don't focus on this idea that one size fits all. I must be honest, my opinion's sort of slightly switched since I've sort of looked at it in more detail. Originally, I was very much a supporter of a night shelter idea, but the more I look at it, a night shelter doesn't necessarily solve lots of people's problems. So, for instance, you've got domestic abuse victims who may be fleeing the family home with children. You don't really want to be putting them in a night shelter. And what you also need to look at is not just temporary support, but helping people people to overcome their problems so they are in more permanent accommodation as well. So it's not necessarily about breaking down all the systems that are there, starting afresh, saying we need all this brand new shiny infrastructure. What we need is more options for people, and that means engaging with local authorities as well, looking at how we deal with legislation. In fact, legislation is absolutely crucially important to ensuring, people have a right to housing, they have those statutory rights so they can access those services, and ensuring that people are signposted in the right place, because certainly with my constituency MHK hat on, a lot of the people I've dealt with, they haven't known where to go. The support is out there and I've been able to signpost them to get the support, but they haven't initially known where to go themselves. So I think there's a whole different piece of work there as well, about not just building new infrastructure and ensuring that there's the support there for people to get homed, but also ensuring that the services that are already there are better signposted for people.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor vessel Manxman left Heysham at 16 minutes to 3 this afternoon. She's going to be back into Douglas Harbour at about 6:30 or so, 6:15. Tonight's departure is 8:15. Ben McCree to Heysham, arriving there just before midnight. Manannan, the fast craft, left Douglas at 13 minutes to 2. She's safely into Liverpool now, leaving this evening at 7:15, back to Douglas at 10:30, 11:45 time. Ben McCree arrives back from the 2:15 departure from Heysham tomorrow morning at 6, and the 8:45 Manxman to Heysham tomorrow morning is subject to disruption or cancellation. The master will decide at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning whether or not Manxman's heading to Lancashire, and the 1:30 Manannan to Liverpool will be decided at midday. Of course, they're both subject to weather.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
Manxcare says it's confident it's doing enough to change the organisation's culture. The Isle of Man's health and social care providers published a strategy for the next 3 years to try and improve working conditions. Here's Manxcare Chief Exec Teresa Cope.
I think it's really important for Manxcare to make a clear statement about what its values are, what its vision for the organisation is, the behaviours we expect to see, because that will create that positive culture. Everybody will make their own decisions about the reasons why they seek to leave. We really want to understand why people leave, and so you'll see in the plan that commitment to understanding that better through people engaging in exit interviews. There are some things in this cultural plan which you would consider to be really, really basic, but we have to get the basics right, and we have to get those right and then build upon those. So this isn't an advanced strategy. This is a lot of what is fundamental and basic to the safe and effective running of health and care services. Sometimes you can overlay too much change in an organisation and people can feel slightly overwhelmed with just the amount of change, and I'm very, very conscious of that. So the change coaches are some of the people who are those ear to the ground. They keep the executive connected into what's going on. I think this is a really good start. I'm confident that the strategy is deliverable. There is nothing overly ambitious in there that we can't commit to. I would like to have put more in it. I'd like to have been a little bit more ambitious, but we've also got to be really realistic.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, the London Stock Exchange Group said this afternoon it had temporarily restricted trading while it investigated the system incident. Only stocks in the FTSE 100 and 250 and international order book were available for trading. For a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Nestle's closing a baby milk factory in Ireland because of the falling Chinese birth rate. China's birth rate's fallen to its lowest in 7 decades, reducing demand for the baby milk products, and the facility, which operates as Wyeth Nutritionals Ireland, makes products almost entirely for the Chinese market. The closure of the plant in Askeaton, County Limerick, means over 500 job losses. Nestle intends to complete the closure by the first quarter of 2026. The plant was up for sale, but no buyer was found. The company is proposing to transfer production from Askeaton to 2 existing factories, Suzhou in China and Konolfingen in Switzerland. The number of newborn babies in China has declined by 50%, from 18 million in 2016 to fewer than 9 9 million projected for this year.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European markets fell as investors assessed the impact of the crisis in the Middle East. The dollar fell as the US 10-year yield backed away from the 5% level it neared. Oil fell and gold edged higher as fears of that escalation in the Israel-Hamas conflict kept demand for safe haven assets intact. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down 1 and almost 0.2% at 7,499. The DAX in Frankfurt down 0.33% at 15,045. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up 0.04%, 33,679. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up 0.1% at 13,329. The S&P 500 in Chicago again almost up 0.1% at 4,317. But the trading day continues. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 21.5 cents, €1 14.8 cents, and 23.1 South African rand. In commodities, gold's up 0.5% at $1,958 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude fractionally down 0.02%, but down at $91.30.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
Fast am I. Thanks for dropping by tonight. 13 minutes before 6, live from Douglas in the Isle of Man on Manx Radio. Ramsey Commissioners has received a green flag for its management of Mooragh Park. Lead member for Parks and Leisure, Jeff Court, says it's the only one on the island with that status.
Beyond delighted. We were awarded green flag status last year. We are the only organisation on the Isle of Man to get green flag status this year. Mooragh Park is an absolute credit to the town and the community. The Parks Department puts so much hard work into it. I might sound biased, but I think it's easy to say it's the best park on the whole island, and this flag proves it. There are a number of criteria, and they essentially send someone round to assess the quality of the space, the amenities that are provided, the level of maintenance. There's a whole spectrum, in the same way that you might get a blue flag for the beach that kind of acknowledges water clarity and amenities. The same applies for the green flag. So we've got everything there. We've got fantastic eateries, we've got a beautiful boating lake, we've got wonderful green spaces, we've got the bowling alley, we've got the best park on the island. They came, they saw that, they followed up with a little bit of a sneaky mystery shop just to see if we were maintaining it, and of course our Parks Department staff an incredibly good job, so it was ticks in every boxes. No, it is renewed every year, so you've really got to keep on your toes, and luckily here in Ramsey everyone's on their toes and keeping that park beautiful for the benefit of everybody in the community.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I, good evening. We've already heard about the latest developments of one of the island's motorsport events this evening, and over in the United States, the Isle of Man TT Races is going to be the subject of a news feature this weekend.
Pace of life on the Isle of Man is slow, even sleepy, for 50 weeks of the year. But for 2 weeks, starting at the end of May, it becomes one of the loudest, fastest, most dangerous places in sport.
The races will feature on CBS News' Sunday on 60 Minutes, featuring footage and interviews from this year's event, including a chat with 13-time TT winner and this year's senior TT winner Peter Hickman. Meanwhile, in football, Visit Isle of Man says it's looking at ways of assisting FC Isle of Man in developing their market for attracting visitors to Manx shores. That's from the chief executive of the organisation, who says she recognises the club provides a regular visitor profile to the island. Deborah Heather says she's a big supporter of what the club is trying to do.
We're looking to support them to try and develop that market. We have a scheme called TEDS where we help events on the island bring in visitors to boost our numbers, get people to know the island. Underwriting in the most part, but we're looking to develop it to support with marketing and things like that. It's under review by the board at the moment.
And in snooker, the new Isle of Man Snooker League is now officially underway, with Jackson's making the fastest start in the first fixtures of the latest campaign. They were convincing 5-0 winners over Port St Mary Legion, whilst elsewhere Finch Hill Musicians A had a strong 4-1 victory over Maloo. There were also narrow tomorrow. 3-2 wins respectively for Finchal Mob, Finchal Rockets, Wannabes and Peel Legion.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 5:25 Loganair from Manchester came in 5 minutes early. Then it's the 10:08 Loganair from London City on time. The 5:08 Loganair from Liverpool is on time. The 8:05 EasyJet inbound from Manchester is delayed by about 35 minutes in at 20:09. And the 25:09 EasyJet from London Gatwick currently delayed 15 minutes until 10:09. Outbound 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool is on time. The 25:09 EasyJet to Manchester delayed until 10:09, and the 5:09 EasyJet to Gatwick delayed until 20:09. On the roads, you still got the Newcastle Town Road closed between Spring Valley round about the bottom of Richmond Hill for resurfacing. In Lexi, temporary lights on the main road, the A2 near Churchill Junction for mains work. Port St Mary's got lights at the junction of Queen's Road and Park Road for gas main work. Little Mill Road, Onken and Ballacottia Road closed for ditching works. Castletown, Queen Street closed for resurfacing, and closures on Back Hope Street for hedge cutting and railing repairs. King Edward Road, Graddles closed, temporary lights for patching work. Temporary lights also on the TT course at Balig Bridge for drainage work. Lights too on Peveril Road, Peel for resurfacing. In Douglas, Hillside Avenue closed to Circular Road for adjacent office window replacement. Temporary lights on Glen Crutchery Road at the roundabout with Victoria Road for resurfacing. And the Millennium Bridge is closed between 8 and midnight tonight for maintenance work.
H&Hmotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
The Sussex-based Pobjoy Mint, which produced coins for the Isle of Man for almost 50 years until 2017, is to close. MD Taya Pobjoy says some of the company's best products were associated with the island.
The very most successful coin that Pobjoys have ever made was the Penny Black, which was with the Isle of Man in 1990. We had the Nigel Mansell £2 coin, which I can't forget, having gone over to the Indy 500 to actually see him and do the presentation with Donald Genning. Was one of the highlights of my career, without a doubt. Probably one of the other most amazing times was when I met Pope John Paul II at the Vatican and presented him also with an Isle of Man coin. At that time, a Madonna and Child Millennium coin, because it was around the millennium.
Do we read anything into your closure and the fact that the Isle of Man ended its relationship with you 6 years ago, or is it bigger than that?
Not at all. We've gone on to do lots of other countries. Sometimes countries and companies just want to try different things, and I think that's what happened with the Isle of Man. They wanted to, they'd only ever known life with us, so I think they wanted to see what else was out there.
And selling the business isn't an option?
Do you know, it's something that I did consider. Being wrong or right, I want people to remember the Pobjoy name as very high quality product and innovative. And I don't want people to go, oh, Pobjoy Mint, yeah, they used to be good, but they're not so good anymore. And that's my choice then to say that I wanted to close.
Update. Brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
A climate change scientist has told Manx Radio that everybody needs to be part of the solution. Dr. Douglas Fox was the keynote speaker at the Isle of Man's 5th Research Festival, an event designed to get people thinking about things. It was organised by Gail Corrin from University College Isle of Man.
Yes. Well, I think we are increasingly. I think the facts are that we see it every day. Someone recently said that it's become like wallpaper. Every day there's another tragedy that occurs, another fire, another flood, another extreme drought. And so, I think we are paying a lot of attention to it. Now, whether we're able to do much about it, that's going to be the challenge for the future. And that's one of the values of a festival like this, because everyone needs to be part of the solution. The only way we're going to be able to make progress is if everyone engages and everyone becomes concerned and everyone does what they can.
Well, perhaps not unsurprisingly, UCM has a role beyond delivering courses and qualifications for our students directly, but to engage with the public at a wider level around the importance of research, of being a thought leader, of having challenging discussions about topics that affect us all, either as individuals or, as in today's festival, climate change, so a global challenge. We started to run these festivals 5 years ago, and they're pretty eclectic, and the word festival is important. It's not a conference, it's not all academic, it's not all heavy-duty research, as I might call it. It's about a range of topics that might be of interest to anyone anyone on the Isle of Man, so it's not just for students or academics or research, it's for the general public, to come and think about things. Like, I've just come out of a session there saying, will AI remove the need to have librarians? We had another session on awesome Manx women, a historical review of Manx women and Manx women in politics. So it's a really eclectic range of, we hope, stimulating and thought-provoking topics.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Chanel Suku, producer Siobhan Fletcher. Stick around, we got the archive room with Judith Lay after 6, Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30, and Lewis Foster with Update tomorrow.
WINT